are here by a WW1 pillbox near the village of St Julien, a few miles north of the town centre. In 1917, the area north and east of this village was overlooked by a large number of heavily fortified farms, German pillboxes and gun positions. These German strongholds became a source of great loss of life. They prevented our troops from advancing towards Passchendaele Ridge for a number of weeks from the start of the Third Battle of Ypres until the end of August, nearly a month later. 4 Ramsey men were amongst those that lost their lives in this area.
Prince Rose was born in 1880 in St Ives, the son of John and Harriet Elizabeth. By the time Prince Rose was 10, the family had moved to Ramsey. Prince married in 1911, and by the time Prince went to war, they had 2 children. Prince was working as a fishmonger, and the family were living at number 17 Little White.
Prince was a stretcher bearer with the 1st Hertfordshires. On the very first day of the Third Battle of Ypres, 31st of July, Prince's battalion made good progress through the German front line and towards the village of St Julien. It was here that they reached another heavily defended area near the Steenbeek Street, which lies 100 yards from here. We learn what happened to Prince's battalion from an account by one of the Hertfordshire quartermasters, who were responsible for getting supplies to the troops as they advanced. The quartermasters went forwards towards the end of the day with the food for the battalion's evening meal. One found some senior officers who thought they would know where his comrades were.
There was the most tremendous bombardment going on all the while. After a long time, I found the brigade headquarters. They were in an underground German concrete pillbox in front of St Julien. I went down the stairs, saluted the brigadier, told him who I was, explained the position, and said, Could you give me any instructions, sir? That would help me find the battalion." He just stood up and looked at me. We were both standing on the steps, and the pillbox was rocking like a boat in a rough sea with explosions. After a while he said, "I'm sorry, Quarters. I'm afraid there isn't any Hertford regiment."
Prince had died alongside 200 of his companions. His body was never found, and he is remembered on the Menin Gate in Ypres.
The Allied troops continued to attack the fortifications which the Germans held over the coming weeks. Two more Ramsey men were to die on the same day, August 22nd. Alfred Allen was a farm labourer who responded to Kitchener's call to volunteer in December 1914. He initially joined the Huntingdonshire Cyclist Battalion before being transferred to the 1st 5th Warwickshire. Alfred, a 21-year-old farm worker of 40-foot Bridge, Ramsey, died in a German counter-attack just after his battalion had captured a range of German gun positions just to east of St Julien.
Alfred's body was never recovered, so he's commemorated on the Tyncott Memorial to the missing. This is the grave of Arthur Price, a Ramsey St Mary's man who was married with 3 daughters. On the same day that Alfred Allen died, Arthur Price's Argyll and Sutherland battalions was attacking on other fortified farms to the east of St Julien. Arthur's battalion were attacking the German defences near Beck House further up the Steenbeek Stream, the same brook in which Prince Rose's battalion had become bogged down 3 weeks earlier. Again, the swampy ground caused by weeks and months of shelling delayed the truce, making them sitting ducks for the German artillery. Arthur's battalion had some 200 casualties during that attack. Arthur was buried near where he fell, and his body was later moved to the Dochy Farm Cemetery.
The last Ramsey man to die near St Julien was Cecil Pettit. Cecil, from Oil Mills Road, Ramsey St Mary's, had, like Alfred Allen, initially joined the Hunt's Cyclist Battalion before being transferred to the Warwickshire Regiment. One of the German strong points that the Hertfordshire had attacked on the 31st July was a fortified farm outside of St. Julien called Springfield. This is now a green piece of pasture land near the edge of the village, but in 1917 the battalion looked nothing like it does today. By this time the British had fired over 5 million shells, and the shell holes almost covered every bit of land. And as it rained virtually every day in August, they were filled with water.
It was across this morass of liquid mud and debris that Cecil put it in his battalion finally took Springfield on the 27th of August, 4 weeks after the initial attack by Rose and his comrades. The attack on Springfield was another attack that left hundreds of casualties on the battlefield, and one of Petit's officers reported the awful fate that overtook many of the men.
So I went out again into the open and walked along our line. A few heavies were still pounding about us, but a more terrible sound now reached my ears. From the darkness on all sides came the groans and wails of wounded men, faint, long, sobbing moans of agony and despairing shrieks. It was all too horrible, obviously that dozens of men with serious wounds must have crawled for safety into new shell holes, and now the water was rising about them. Powerless to move, they were slowly drowning.
Somewhere and at some time during this terrible action, Cecil George Pettit, a 21-year-old farm labourer from Ramsey St. Mary, was killed. Not surprisingly, his body was not found and he is commemorated on the Tyne Court Memorial to the missing.
Imagine running into a battle when you know your grave has already been made. Imagine watching your brothers, friends, cousins, even sons marching into that battle by your side. Imagine fighting for your country that forced you into battle just to achieve nothing. Imagine shooting at innocent men who have barely lived their lives.